You're listening to the Consistent Briefing Show podcast on Anchor FM.
Alrighty. Welcome back to another edition of the Consistent Briefing podcast. My name is Jason Batt and I will be your host for this evening's podcast. It is now just gone past 6 o'clock in the evening on this Friday, the 18th of September, 2020. And yeah, we are. We are now hitting level 1, as our president will say. But yeah, before we get into it, let me introduce you to my guest, Pieter Henderson, my man. How are you, Chana?
I'm fine, Jason. How are you doing?
No, lekker, man. Lekker. What do you think about level 1? A whole bunch of flaws, eh?
I'm going to reserve judgment on this whole thing. You know, for me, it's to be very honest. You got experts saying one thing, and you got experts that contradict them. So it's very difficult for us, I think, as the general public,
yes,
to make a decision either way. So I think you either have a preconceived idea of what it is. You can either say, well, I think it's a scam and it doesn't exist, or you're going to say it's a most frightening thing that's ever happened in our lifetime.
Yeah.
I just think it's very, very difficult. I've got sympathy for people on both sides of the spectrum. Yeah.
That's crazy. Look, for one thing, I'm happy about I got a friend of mine that lives in Cape Town. His name is Anthony. He drives people around in the tourist. He works in the tourist section. Okay, so for him, this last few months has been hectic because that's his job. That's his bread and butter, driving around people. Yeah. Touring them around Cape Town and that. So he's extremely happy that this is happening. But like the president said, 50% only allowed in venues and that. So there's still. It's not 100% level 1, eh? And there's still a curfew. Still a bloody curfew.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jason. A lot of things that's being decided by people that's got power really doesn't make sense. And it's not just South Africa. Look, I've basically adopted an attitude from the beginning of last year that I'm not going to be worried about what happens in the rest of the world. I think there's enough happening in South Africa to still be concerned about what happens in the rest of the world. But with that said, if you look at Britain at the moment, they now want to lock down again because they're being hit by a second wave. And people like Kevin Pietersen, the South African-born cricket player, is asking the question, but why? The death rate is minimal. So it's a terribly confusing situation. Governments around the world is using it to control people, to get leverage they didn't have before. And I don't know. It's just, to me, it's just too confusing to get involved. And whenever I get onto Twitter and I talk to people and I express my opinion, it ends up in arguments. So I've decided, well, look, if experts can't agree, then how can we agree? That's going to be impossible. You know, it's and I'm in a very similar position to your friend. The majority of my income comes from a contract I've got with Greyhound buses, and they haven't used us since the week before lockdown. They actually locked down the week before lockdown. Greyhound did, out of care of their safety and just an amazing company that they are.
Yeah.
So, and I had a meeting with them yesterday, and they said, look, until such time as we pick up again, we don't require your services. So I know exactly what your friend is saying, and I'm in the same boat.
No, definitely. All right, for the viewers out there, just give a quick intro, a little small little bio of yourself, who you are.
Okay, well, my intro is going to be probably one of your shortest one. I'm an IT guy. I like things IT, and I'm very opinionated, and I think that in a nutshell is about me, eh?
No, hundreds. Okay, well, let's get into this podcast.
Okay, cool.
You approached me some time ago, about a week ago.
Jay, let me just close the door quickly. My dog's is making a hell of a
All right.
Hey, Jay, sorry about that, man.
No, don't worry. I'll edit.
I introduced this new dog to my family here. She was abused, female, most amazing Labrador cross border collie, and she's back to settle in, and yeah, a bit noisy there, but yeah, all sorted. Okay.
No,
You were saying?
Anyway, so you approached me, and there was this little proposal that you wanted to introduce, and so my question is, give us a quick rundown on, or a summary on how you foresee an alternative way to govern a society as such.
Okay. Basically, in a nutshell, nothing in South Africa will succeed politically wise, in my opinion. And if there's not 100% total transparency, and 100% civic participation. If you don't have those two things as the core of any initiative, nothing will succeed. So that in a nutshell is what it's about. If you would like me to elaborate a bit on that,
yeah,
I can.
Please do. Yeah, go for it.
All right. So let me start off by saying, before we look at an alternative way of being governed, we have to ask ourselves the question, why? Now, the answer is very simple. If things have been working, then we won't need an alternative. But things aren't working, and that is why we need an alternative.
Yeah.
So people care only about things when they start falling apart. When things start falling apart, you find these guys coming and saying, join the movement 100 and we'll shut South Africa down, etc., etc. That's when things start going wrong. People want to start getting involved. I live in Ilfracombe. Now, Ilfracombe is a small rural township, and even here amongst the African people, they are talking about change, and they are talking about not supporting the party they've been supporting in the past. But they're between a rock and a hard place, because on the one side, they know they can't vote ANC anymore because of corruption.
Yeah,
they don't want to vote EFF because they feel that EFF is a disrespectful school bully type of company. And they won't vote DA for the simple reason they just do not trust white people. So your alternative is, when you now want to work on alternative, you have to include two things. You have to include transparency, and you have to include civic decision making. Now, any alternative way of government is necessary. An alternative way of government is necessary because of the failures of our current system.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Due in large to a lack of or total absence of transparency and virtual no civic control. The other three things that's also important is honesty, accountability, and the accepting of realities. Now, people will say to me, what is the accepting of realities? The accepting of realities is this. Any government system anywhere in the world, in my opinion, and I've looked at a lot of government systems around the world, is a love triangle. In the center, you've got government. On the one side, you've got big business. On the other side, you've got the underworld. Now, the more corrupt a government seems to be, the more control the underworld has got. The more legitimate a government seems to be, like in Germany and England and America, the more big business is in control.
Yeah.
So it's a trade-off between those two. People who think that there is a government that doesn't operate that way or this way is not in touch with reality. The other thing that people have to realize is that under the current system or current systems, we are being told that the voter is the alpha and omega of the system. The voter is the person around which everything centers. And that is the biggest, or one of the biggest lies that's been sold to people ever since democracy has come into being.
Very
And the
true.
reason why I'm saying so, let's look at South Africa. South Africa is controlled by the ANC. The ANC has got about 750, 780,000 members. They decide who the president is. They decide what the policies of the government is.
Mm. Yeah.
What percentage of South Africa is 780,000? It's not even 1%. So we are
True.
being controlled by 1%.
Yeah, we've been
A
led.
couple of
Yeah, we've been led.
yes,
Yeah,
a
we've been
couple of
led.
months ago, Hong Kong has had these riots about they were unhappy about being provided with two candidates to choose from in their elections there. And the riots were sponsored by the Americans. But the American system also works on a 1% of the American population determines who the Americans are going to vote for. You can research it and you will find that. It's shocking, but it is the truth.
Yeah.
Okay, so to get to what I want is that ignoring these realities is absolutely ludicrous. You can't come up with a system that will work for man if you don't accept these things. So my system or my suggestion is the following. The way I see it as working is each ward, now it's in a South African context, so each ward will be a sector or a division or whatever you want to term it. Let's just call it wards for lack of a better description. So a ward, in each ward, everybody in that ward, doesn't matter which political party you belong to, and this is the beauty of what I'm proposing, is we do not have to do away with political systems at first.
Mm-hmm.
You can vote DA, you can vote EFF, you can vote ANC, you can vote for whoever you want. This system doesn't affect that. All it means is everybody in a ward gets together and they compile a list of grievances. This list is then put to the vote to the people in this ward. So I, for instance, here where I stay, will say, well, listen, I don't like the litter, so I want dustbins. My friend Mondley might turn around and say, you know what, I would like street lights because I go to work early. And Lala must probably turn around and say, you know what, I've got a little child, so I want a sidewalk for my child to walk on. So we will all put our grievances on this list. Once the list is compiled, the entire community will then vote. They'll get one vote to say which one of these things on the list is to them the most important. This list will then be reevaluated with the one that's got the most votes will be at the top and descending from there. The people will then decide how this will be solved. And here you can apply basic project management system. Well, you can say, well, all right, so we're going to go for, let's say, streetlights. To have streetlights, we have to get somebody in to come and do this. We'll put out a tender. The community will look at the people that's tendered. They can say, well, listen, if you want this tender, we've got a guy here in our community that's got a tipper truck. If you need a tipper truck, or we've got somebody that can do paving, or whatever the case might be. So you will use what's in the community on this tender, and from there on, everything will flow. And what's beautiful about what's happening in technology at the moment, a bank like African Bank, for instance, let's say, for instance, we've got this project and government gives us X amount of money. The money can go into that bank account, and every person in that community, if they use an African bank account, every person in that community can go into that bank account and observe where the money is, how much money has been withdrawn out for this and that and this and that. So the technology is there to give the transparency and the civic control that is necessary. So that in a nutshell is what my proposal is. Yeah.
Sounds good to me. I like it. I like it a lot. It makes sense. Yeah. But so with that, along with that, my second question is what new systems would you like to implement?
Okay, well, for one, you've got to have total transparency. if you do not have that, you're doomed. And I'm harping on this total transparency, and I know that. But imagine this: if let's say you and I know a group of people,
Yeah.
and we go to them and we say to them, "Listen, you had a meeting. What was said in that meeting? Unless you and I were present in that meeting, we will never know what was said in that meeting." So every meeting, every get together, every decision-making process must be able to be followed by those people who want to follow it. The biggest problem with my system, I feel, is people like to complain, but they don't like to do what needs to be done to solve it. I'm going to give you an example.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
On the south coast, between Kelso on the south coast and Durban, PRASA is offering the train service. Train service is absolutely shocking. So I came up with an idea. I said to myself, okay, let me build an app where the public that use this train can inform fellow commuters as to where the train is. So about 150 people that use the train downloaded this app. And what they had to do is, if you stand on Kelso waiting for the train to go to Durban, Kelso being the starting point to Durban, you will then go into the app and click on Kelso when the train arrives. The next station, which is Park Rennie, will then be orange, and the next station, which is after that, is Scottsboro, which would be red. So when the train then gets to Park Rennie, somebody will then click on Park Rennie, and Scottsboro will turn orange, and the next one, which is Clanston, will then turn red. So it was a way so that the public can see where the train is, how far they are from the train, instead of waiting sometimes 2-3 hours for a train. Now you can sit at the comfort of your home, look at your app, and say, well, okay, I'm living in Ilfracombe. The train is now in Scottsboro. To get from Scottsboro to Ilfracombe takes the train about 15 minutes. So I've got 15 minutes to get to the station, instead of sitting at the station waiting for a train that was supposed to be there an hour ago. I think out of the 150 people, 3 people actually participated in this app. And that is the problem. In a way, that is how people are. People like to complain, but people don't like to get involved to solve things. I don't know if this sort of makes sense. I might be jumping around a bit here.
No,
Maybe
look,
you can...
No, look at the individual. You know, I'm an individual, okay? So we all want individual rights. We want to live in a country where government is less involvement, you know? Basically, we just want the government there for protection, you know, property protection rights and so forth and that, you know? So that's how an individual, in a nutshell, would like to foresee how a government should actually run a country.
You see, this concept of mine is not something that's been spoken about in the general discourse at the moment, and that is why our approach is to put it out there. There's a lot of other things that this system will incorporate. For instance, if you live in this place and there's a street light not working, you will take your cell phone, take a photo of the street light. Because your cell phone has got GPS active, you will send it to somebody that will say, well, okay, this street light, and that job will go onto the system, and anybody in the community that's got the capability of fixing that street light can then go and say, well, listen, I'll fix this street light, I'll do it in so many days, and I will charge government X amount. You don't need a tender.
That will create jobs, eh? That's a job creator.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, if I have to go to a friend of mine and I have to say to him, listen, let's have a braai this weekend. And he says, all right, let's say I go to the tavern. And I say to Skulu, the tavern owner, and I say, listen, Skulu, let's have a braai this Sunday. And let everybody clap in, call it $50 to have this braai.
Yeah.
Now, if we get to that braai and I've got 5 kgs of meat there, those guys are going to be fucking up in arms. Sorry for that. For that
That's
word,
all right.
They're going to be up in arms. Okay?
That's right. No holds
because they're
barred.
going to say, we were 20 guys that put in $50 and we're getting 5 kgs of meat.
Yeah.
What did you buy? Did you buy a prime rump steak or prime sirloin steak from Butcher Boys?
Or you just bought a piece of chuck.
They're very yes, they're very concerned about overpaying for money. But government doesn't seem to worry about overpaying for things. They love overpaying for things. So one of the ways that one of the benefits of this system is to eliminate overpaying. You can, as I said, you can go and look and see who got paid what for what with this new African bank system.
Yeah.
Where you can log in, you can say, okay, well, this guy was paid. So let's say, for instance, we're putting up street lights, and we know that the tender said that the street lights are going to be X amount per street light. And now we see, but listen, this guy's been paying 8 times that amount. It can be questioned there and then. You know, action can be taken right there before this guy even, just before time evolves and people can get away and people can start covering up, etc., etc.
Yeah, and of course. Yeah. Look, all in well, it sounds good in that, but you know, my biggest problem is education. A lot of the people in this country are not educated, and they also don't have the means to have a smartphone to take photos of a streetlight that's broken and send it. How? That's one way. How are we gonna get to that? Getting people to understand how to use those systems. That is a big challenge.
So, as I said to you, I live in Ilfracombe. It's a rural township. I moved in here 3 years ago. I bought a little house here. I used the trains primarily up until the trains got cancelled because the service was, because of lockdown primarily. That was just an excuse. We got the trains back, I think, the beginning of last week.
Not only that.
So I live amongst African. Sorry,
we've seen a lot of vandalism on train stations.
Absolutely,
a lot of vandalism.
So I live amongst African people, and I speak to them a lot. And let me be honest with you. In my opinion, majority of African people have got cell phones that are smartphones and that can work on this way. You don't need a smartphone to be able to take a photograph and to send it in. There's a lot of old handsets that don't have internet or don't have, they're not smartphones, but they can connect to the net and they can take photos and they can send the photo.
Yeah, you can also introduce that USSD system for the people that have got normal cell phones. You dial,
Yes.
like a *18. Let's say, for example, *18.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then there's options. You can put options there, and then it will go through like a SMS. Yeah.
Look, the technology is there to make this thing work, and one has got to say, all right, there's no perfect system. So there's no system where you're going to say, well, all right, I want to introduce this system, and everybody's got to have cell phones. If everybody doesn't have a cell phone, which everybody doesn't have, I would say the greater majority, but those people that don't have a cell phone, you can't hold the system back just because maybe a small percentage of the people don't have it. I think if something is good enough and can prove its worth, and I think this system of mine can stand scrutiny, then I think it should be implemented. And I need people to start talking around this. I need people to start saying, listen, let's stop blaming politicians. Because you know what?
We all are blaming politicians. we
do. And it's the easiest thing to do, Jason. I mean, a 5-year-old can blame. It's no big achievement to be a blamer.
Yeah.
Excuse me. If you I always say, people like to say, how stupid are ANC supporters? Because they keep on voting for these corrupt, ineffective, incompetent people. And then I turn around and I say, but how pathetic are a DA supporter? Because you keep on voting for the same people that's been trying to do the same thing over and over and are hoping for a different result. I mean, when are people that support the DA going to realize that, look, you don't achieve anything by telling your wife how pathetic she is when you're having an argument with her?
Yeah.
That's the last thing that you should do. But that's what the ANC, that's what the DA always does. And I don't call him John Steenhuisen, I call him Blockhuisen, because he blocks everybody on Twitter. People love listening to this guy standing there and telling the ANC how crap they are. How pathetic. Is that how you want to change the South Africa? Well, try something new. You've done it for 8 years or for 15 years or however long. Try something different, you know?
Yeah. I wanted to say, I was in Durban last year. I helped with the opening of a macro, and I saw the poverty. How big the poverty is in Natal. And in fact, Natal has got the biggest poverty in the country at the moment, as we know it. Rural areas, running water, proper plumbing system. That's also another big challenge. Peter, would you agree?
Absolutely. And it's all got to do with corruption. And you know, up until recently, the African people haven't felt corruption, so they couldn't give two hoots if the politician was corrupt or not. They couldn't. But as one guy said to me the other day, he said to me, "You know what? I understand corruption now." And I said to him, "Well, why all of a sudden now?" He says, "Well, when we had load shedding before, I could still use my phone. I could phone, I could go on the internet, because the internet was working over the service providers, the cell phone service providers. But now criminals have stolen all the backup batteries. Now when it's load shedding, the tower is down, the internet doesn't work. So a lot of the people that didn't feel the direct effects of corruption in the past are now starting to feel it, and that's part of the reason why they are looking at somebody to come and help them to change. I don't know exactly how to put it into words, Jason, but one has got to put yourself in the context of the majority. Now, I watched a program on Netflix called I'm a Killer. Very, very interesting program. One of the episodes, they had a guy that was convicted of murder and was sent to death row. And he got off death row because he's been abused and victimized all his life. But in a horrific way. It's in season 2 of I'm a Killer, and I think it's episode 2, 2 or 3. And this guy, it's horrific. His father set him alight. His father sold him to a guy that made moonshine. It's horrific. And what the court said, because of his abuse, you can't sentence him to die. And I sometimes just want people to think back, to sit back and say, if you had to be in a person that stays in a squatter camp's shoes, how can you judge your actions in a similar way you judge that person's actions? You just can't, because of the circumstances they are in. And I'm not advocating this is an excuse. It's a reality. Psychologists all over the world in criminal cases use how you've been abused and your situation when you grew up, how that affects your decision-making abilities.
Yeah.
So, you know, the days of saying, of looking down at people and to judge people, if you really want to change the country, you want to make this country a better place, that's got to stop.
Yeah, no,
you know, and I can argue for the other side. I can argue and I can say, and I do this on Twitter. I get involved in discussions with people on how bad apartheid was and how terrible white people are, and at the end of the conversation, I said to them, okay, let's concede that the majority of whites are racist or have racist tendencies, especially when they are alone amongst their friends. But then let's turn around and say, but what can you guys as Africans do? Do you save for your own funeral, for instance? Do do you go out and say, well, listen, I'm going to have 4 beers, but tonight I'm going to have 3 because I'm going to take the money of the 1 beer and buy a funeral plan, and that I'm going to do every Friday? Or do you just spend that money? Do you decide to not make more than to have children other than with your wife, so that your kids have got a father-headed figure in the house?
Yeah. And that's economics.
So I take up these things.
It's economics, Peter. People, and it boils down to education again. Economics 101. I mean, if we can just have, and I've mentioned this in various of my podcasts, some type of reform program that can go out there and just teach people on economics. Like you just said now, am I going to spend 4 beers? Take the one, that's a step in economics, you know. He needs to think for his future, what's going to happen. 100%, I'm with you there. Yeah.
So both sides are to blame, Jason, in my opinion. You know, I grew up in an ultra conservative household. I mean, my grandfather was Oswald Brandwach. My great grandparents, they had siblings that was murdered in the concentration camp by the Brits, and my grandfather wouldn't speak to me for about a week when he heard that I wanted to date an English girl. So if he doesn't want me to date an English girl, what the hell are you going to talk about an African girl? You know what I'm saying? So that's the type of household that I grew up in. And then I started reading English newspapers, because I said to myself, if I want to understand how English people are, I've got to read English newspapers, and I've got to start making English friends. Yeah. And when I did that, I realized, but you know what, the English aren't very different to the Afrikaans people, to the Boere. And then once I got to understand that we, the Boere and the English, are very similar, I thought, well, okay, now let me start reading African literature and African newspapers. And I actually realized that we're not very much different to Africans. I'll tell you, African children are taught to eat with their mouths closed. They're taught to say pardon me when they burped. Yep. They taught all the basics that we as English and Afrikaner people are taught. So we are so similar.
Yeah, not true.
But leaders want to tell us how different we are.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I like to do is I like to ask the question why. So let me explain to you how this works. So Julius Malema goes on national TV and he says, kill the boer, kill the farmer. So everybody up in arms. And my question is, why would Julius Malema sing this song? I'm not interested what he did, because what he did is water under the bridge. You can't undo it. You can't stop it. It's done. But if you ask yourself the question why, life becomes a lot clearer, because you start focusing on what is important and not what the majority focuses on. And let me explain it to you this way. You know, when you're a child and somebody teases you and you get angry and you run to your mother and you say, mommy, this child, blah, 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 blah. Your mother will turn around and say, you know what, Peter, just ignore that child. When he teases you, don't get angry, just turn around and walk away. So she's teaching you not to buy in to the emotional effects of what's happening. And that's what political leaders do. They tap into that emotion. Yeah, we're going to do this. Like everybody now with EFF, with this clicks thing. In my opinion, this clicks ad wasn't racist. I took a day off, and early in the morning, I put out there this ad wasn't racist, and I motivated it. And I had a ding-dong battle with about 300 people until about 10 o'clock on that Monday night. But here's the thing. Even though I don't approve of the way the EFF went about it, the EFF at the end of the day got 5 rural kids bursaries. They got a shitload full of sanitary towels for girls that wouldn't have it. So what if they went about it the wrong way? The end result was good. So this guy from AfriForum posted that what the EFF did with clicks was illegal. It's unconstitutional because you can't have an agreement where you we have give things to kids, to girls, but not to boys. And I took him up on it and I said to him, you know what? You're so focused on what is wrong. Look at what these guys achieved. They got some kid that had no chance in this world. They're giving him a chance. You might not like the way they did it, but they did it. You know, so we should rather focus on the good than the hype and the emotional crap that is out there. Because if we want to say, yeah, all the EFF people are a bunch of illiterates that just buys into the hype of whites are bad, then we've got to be able to say that we are better. And if I'm saying we, I'm not talking about we as white people. I'm talking about we, the people that profess not to buy into rhetoric. But we buy into rhetoric. The guy that at one of the companies where I work, I said to him, we spoke about this Black Lives Matter thing, and I said to him, you know what? I've been following Black Lives Matter, I think, since 2013, 2014, when it came out the first time. And essentially, Black Lives Matter back then was to highlight white policemen killing African Americans. And it's been hijacked now by Marxist oriented group called Antifa.
Antifa,
and
yeah.
the people that are in charge of Black Lives, sorry?
Yeah, no, I was going to say Antifa, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Antifa, and the people that are in charge of Black Lives Matter now are known Marxists. They're communists. They want the world to become a communist entity. And I said to him, you know what? I watch a lot of things on internet, and what I've noticed, especially in America, people will go onto a talk show. They'll invite 4 or 5 people, and they will start by saying, yeah, why do you think blacks are not doing as well as whites? And people will go through the normal motions. But then what I've noticed, and I've only noticed it of late, is that more and more African people around the world are sitting back and saying, yeah, whites are bad, and whites do a lot of things that are wrong. But we as Africans are also not blameless in all of that. And that is the good that's come out of Black Lives Matter. So everything that happens has got good and bad. I mean, I speak for myself. I've got some bad things that you know, I've got very bad points. But I think I've got a couple of really good points.
Yeah.
And that's, every situation is like that. Every situation has got bad points. Every situation has got good points. And we tend to want to focus on the other people's bad and our good. And I think that has got to change. That really has got to change. And I think when we want to have a situation where we want a better form of governance, to tell people that politicians are corrupt and that's not work. That doesn't work anymore. I like what the Solidariteit is doing. They're starting all the schools, and they're starting security initiatives, and that's what I think we need more of. What I would like Solidariteit to do is involve more African people. And a lot of my friends in here where I stay say to me, Pieter, is you African? And I say, no, I'm not an African because you're an African. I'm a South African. And then they say, but why are you not an African? You come to the tavern and you drink your beer here. You drive in a taxi. You do everything we do. We think you're an African. Why do you not think you're an African? And I don't think I'm an African because I don't understand Pan-Africanism. And to me, it's not natural to me. It doesn't come to me as second nature. I'm a boer. I like dry vlees, and I like to be conservative and,
it's culture.
Things like that. And
that's culture.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that Pan-Africanism is that I don't buy into. So I'm a South African, and I think if we want to see ourselves as South Africans, then we've got to do something different. We have to do something different.
No, for sure.
You know, I don't know.
I just
spoke
want to
yeah.
before we go to the next question, I just want to come back to what you said about being a Boer and the Boer War net. There's this mini series on Showmax called Donkerland. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's on Showmax. Do yourself a favor, and to everyone else out there, I have said it before, but Donkerland on Showmax, you need to go watch it. It's about this farmer that comes to South Africa. He finds land in Natal called Donkerland, and it's eight generations and 157 years of the happenings on this farm. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. You need to go watch it. There, people can also maybe understand why there was this love-hate situation between the Afrikaner and the English. So yeah, Donkerland. Make a note of it. You need to watch it.
I'll make a note of it. Wait, let me write this down. Donkerland, you said.
Donkerland. But it's only on Showmax.
Showmax.
Yeah, only on Showmax.
Okay.
So
Showmax. Okay. Yes.
Donkerland is also about land in that, and so in your proposal, you also speak about the land issue. Should it be a unifier? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so the let me just get this. Jason, just give me a second. There's something went wrong here on my.
Okay, no, that's fine.
On my internet. Okay, all right. I don't know what's going on here. Give me a second.
Okay.
Okay. If you want to look at the land issue, the way I look at it as an observer, the land issue should actually be used to unify South Africa, but instead it's being used to divide us. And it's being used to divide us by everybody. There is not one organization that's come up with a proposal that says the land issue can unify us. That's the reality. I don't know if you disagree with me.
Wait, say it again. Say it again.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, I have not seen one organization that has presented the land issue as a unifier. Each and every organization uses a land issue to divide us further.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's not been seen as a unifier, and it should.
Yes.
Yeah, it should be seen as a unifier. Yeah.
When you want to solve the land issue, you got to have certain objectives. So my first objection is it must unite the country. In a way that you have a win-win situation for everybody involved. Secondly, your second objective must be, it must add value to the land. Yeah. My third objection is it must create employment. The fourth is the benefit, it must benefit the disadvantaged. And then it must restore the dignity of people. So if you can cover those 5 objectives, then you've got a win-win situation. So if we look at the land, I think we can safely say that we can divide the land into 2 categories. You got used and unused land. And if we have to look at the unused land, you can divide that into 2 categories. You've got unused land that's in the hands of government, and you've got unused land that's in the private sector. So what my proposal to the land issue is let's start with the unused land that's in the government's hands. Now, the reason why I say we should start here is because it's less controversial. Nobody is feeling threatened by dealing with land that government owns. So what government can now do is government can now say, well, okay, let's make available land and let's decide on what criteria we're going to make land available. Are we going to give it for people that want to build houses? Or are we going to give it to people that want to start businesses? Or are we going to give it to people that want to start farming?
Yeah.
Or it might be that I want to give it to all 3 of those categories. So they can now develop systems, and they can test the systems on land that they've got. So once they see, well, okay, we've got systems and our systems work, then they can look at unused land in the private sector.
True.
Now, here things become a bit more trickier because unused land in private sector is a hot potato. So, and why, I don't really understand, because I drive through Durban and I see a lot of properties that are derelict. And I'm saying to myself, you know what, that's a piece of property that belongs to somebody that's got so much money, he doesn't give a shit about that property. Look at what it looks like. I own a house. I mow my lawn. I tend to my property on a monthly basis. This guy's got so much money, he can let a big building go to ruins. So there's a case to be made for unused land in private hands. So my proposal for that is you must allow any dispossessed person and use land while it remains the property of the owner. So what I'm saying is a person that wants a piece of land, he must approach the property owner and say, listen, I'm interested in your land. You're not doing jack shit with your land. Your land just standing there. So I want to go and stay there, for argument's sake. Let's say it's a residential property. I want to go and stay there. Then with every transaction comes conditions. So a condition could be that if you want to move into that property, at the very least, you got to keep the property clear of overgrowth, because then the landowner doesn't have to do it. So he's saving money, because that person that's now staying there is going to make sure that there's no overgrowth. So that will be also complying with a bylaw that I think is countrywide, that a vacant piece of land must be maintained.
Definitely.
So
Yeah,
now
definitely.
this person moves on to that land, he doesn't do anything, and what's wrong with that? Nothing, because he's staying there, the landowner is not using it. So that's scenario one. Scenario two, a guy walks into contacts the landowner and say, listen, I'm interested in your vacant property. Standing there, let's say there is a house on it. It's standing there, nobody's living in the house, the roof is off, everything has been stolen out, it's vandalized. I want to go there, I want to live in that house, and I'm going to fix that house up and stay in that house. So this guy is now fixing the house for the landlord, not costing him a cent. Nothing bad, nobody loses, everybody wins. This guy gets a house where he wants to live, and the landowner gets a house that's now been fixed.
Yeah.
We've got those two scenarios. In both cases, the landowner wins. So people will turn around and say, but okay, what happens if the landowner wants to sell the property? Well, if he wants to sell the property, he's got to first of all make it available to the person that's now on the property. So let's say we have the scenario where the guy has just been keeping the property. He's built a little shack on this property. He makes sure that there's no overgrowth. When the property owner sells the property, he's got to reimburse the guy that's been staying there for keeping the property tidy. If somebody moved into a derelict house and fixed the house up, and he doesn't come up with the finances to buy the house, and the property owner then sells the house, the property owner has to compensate him for what he's put into that place. So everybody wins. The guy that had a roof over his head, which he wouldn't have, was probably much closer to his place of work than what he would have had. So when the owner sells the property, the owner gets the money for the property, and this guy gets money that he normally would not have had. So it's a win-win situation. And everything you can work around that way. You can look at everything and come up with a win-win situation.
Look, Pieter, this has happened before. Land has been offered, the compensation has been given, the farmer has to vacate his farm. 2 years later, the new farmer has taken over the farm. He realizes now he can't do it. And there's various reasons why, and one of them is education on that. While you were talking, there was a little video clip that I played, and you'll probably see it when you watch back. A guy took over this farm, but he went to university to go study agriculture. This is the thing. Most of the people that are taking farms, they are not having any education on it. So 2 years will go by, and he would approach the original farmer and say, look, it's not working. can you buy back the farm? And the farmer does that. I mean, where's the win-win in that?
Okay, well, I was for up until now, I was mainly concentrating on urban land because I think the majority of this land issue is from people who live in urban areas that want land to build houses on. That is my understanding. When I speak to people and when I read things that's been said and stuff like that, I'm under the impression that the majority of people are not interested in farming. They're interested in getting land to live on, to build a house and things like that. But let's look at farmland. So in your scenario, you said that there's this guy he got given a property, he was educated, and he made a mess of it. So if you want to have a win-win situation, you've got to say to yourself, you've got to ask yourself the question, why did the surrounding farmers not assist this farmer to become successful? If he was qualified and he was given the farm, why did the surrounding farmers not go to him and say, listen here, we can see you making this stuff up? Or even better still, when things don't work out, come and see us. Let us help you.
Good question. Yeah, you're not so sure if that's happening. Yeah. Yeah, good question.
Well, that gets back to my earlier point of transparency. You see, Jason, that is a big problem with everything. We know too little to have any opinion. We just know too little to have an opinion on any given situation or any given topic that's being fed to us on the news.
Yeah.
Like this guy, why didn't the boer, let me tell you something, a boer will help his enemy, because that's how kind-hearted a boer is. A boer doesn't like to see another human being fail.
Yeah, definitely.
So I don't believe that this boer that was living around him would just sit there on his stoop and look at this like making a total mess and saying, whoopee dingbat, we're happy about this. That's not a boer. That's a rubbish. If they were always like that, they're not boer, they're rubbish.
I know there is systems that get implemented. I got a friend of mine that works on a farm. Well, he lives on a farm, but he goes out and he works for a boss, and they drive out to these farms and they go help farms. They go plow the land and they put poison on the crops and that, you know. So there is systems that get that is implemented. But yet there's still farmers out there that are taking farms over and it's not working out for them. So maybe the question is, there just isn't enough help out there. Not enough help has been offered to these farmers, to these struggling farmers that haven't got a clue how agriculture works.
Look, I'm going to be honest with you. And again, in this situation, you can't say one side is blameless and the other side is to be blamed, and vice versa. A friend that I made worked, his brother got given a farm. And here in Natal, in northern Natal, Vryheid, Dundee, where my family is from. And he got given a farm and he stuffed it up. And when I had a chat to my friend, I said to him, well, what happened? He said, well, my brother got given X amount of millies to plow the land with.
Yeah.
And he took 3/4 of those millies and he sold it. And he bought himself a Mercedes-Benz or some car. And he tried to make a profit with the 25% of the seed that's left over. And when that couldn't work, then he started selling some other things off, because he thought, well, okay, I don't need the tractors and the plows. I can sell them and I can lease them or rent them. So every side is to blame.
Yeah.
100%. Every side is to blame. But not every side is doing everything they can to make it work.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we love to concentrate on the failures, because for some people it gives them some sort of a satisfaction to say, well, we told you so.
Yeah.
Helen Ziller is the biggest culprit. She loves saying, I told you so. I made this prediction back in the year 2, and look, now my prediction came true. Whoopie dingbat. What did you attain? What did you attain by being right? Nothing.
I
If you knew that was going to happen, what did you do not to let it happen? Or did you just sit back and say, well, this is my prediction. Let me see how right I can be, so I can rub it in their faces.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. There just isn't enough help being offered to there. And like my friend that's out there, hats off to him, because what he's doing is absolutely awesome. He's going around to these farms and helping these farmers actually grow, you know?
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. And, you know, so, and as I said, everything, the two sort of, my two concepts sort of work together in the fact that we should stop looking at blaming, and we should start coming up with solutions that work for everybody.
100%.
I love what Solidariteit is doing for the Afrikaner people. I hate the fact that they don't include African people. I hate it. They, Ernest Roots will sit and say, yeah, well, if there's this African people that want to do this, we'll help them. Well, hell, Ernest, why don't you just get off your ass and go and help somebody? You can see what help they need.
Yeah.
You know, and I try to explain it to people in this way. If you're in an argument with your wife, you don't tell her to keep quiet or to calm down, do you? No, that's the worst thing you can do. You tell her to calm down, she's going to get more upset.
She's going to get more upset,
So if you tell somebody, huh?
Yeah, she's going to get more upset, yeah, definitely.
Yes. So if somebody's doing the wrong thing, you don't keep on telling them what they're doing wrong, because that's just going to close their ears even more.
Yeah.
You know, you say to them in a diplomatic way, listen, don't you think you should do it this way? Because here's the thing, Jason. Here's the thing. There's a lot of these people out there on both spectrums that wants to have a role. There's people that says, well, let's see how, let this country go to shit. The sooner the better, so we can see where everything's going to happen. These people are a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, that's in Aukie. Yeah.
They don't know what they want. They make me, they remind me of this saying that don't wish for something, you might just get it. You know, so
yeah,
I just think
I had a podcast in Aukie a while ago. And, you know, in Aukie, there is some things that can benefit, but yeah, some things not. It just depends how in Aukie is being implemented. But yeah, that was another podcast on its own.
yes. And, you know, I don't think that my way is necessarily the way that things should be implemented, but it might be a starting point to get the discussion going.
Yeah.
You know? I think if people want to change the way the quality of life is, if you want better schools, if you want better roads, if you want a passport to be proud of, if you want a police force that's doing their work. I was in a taxi the other day, and guy comes to me, and I'm sitting in the front seat. Africans don't like sitting on the front seat because they don't like mash. And the guy sits in the front seat. He's got to count
the money
and give the change back. And that's why they don't
sit there.
So I park there most of the time. So I'm sitting there, and the guy opens the door, and he wants to get into the taxi. And I'm thinking, where the hell do you think you're going to sit? I'm sitting here. So he says to me, so I said to him, where do you want me to go and sit? So he said, I want you to go and sit there. So I look to my right, and truth nuts, there's a seat. But I'm on the front seat, but I didn't realize I was in one of the old high aces. Now, the old high aces had a seat, 2 seats next to the driver. The new taxis don't have the seat next to the driver.
Yeah.
So I moved over and I sat in that seat. So we're driving, and I said to this guy, listen, I'm sure you're trying to figure out what this look on my face was when you told me to move across. And I explained to him how annoyed I was with him because he's telling me to move and I didn't know that I could move. But this guy happened to be a policeman. And I said to him, so how's the morale with the police at the moment? So he said, no, yeah, the morale is down. I said, well, the morale's down in the police ever since I can remember a policeman. And he says to me, why do you think it is? And I said, because you guys are too corrupt. And he says to me, but how can you say we are corrupt? What proof have you got that we are corrupt? And I said, well, listen, let me put it to you as simple as I can. If I know where to go and buy drugs, and you don't close that drug dealer down, you are corrupt, because I can't know more than you do. He said, you know what? You're 100% right. So the thing is, if you want a better South Africa, you've got to be transparent. You've got to get the community involved. If you don't do those two things, Don't try.
Yeah,
Herman Mashawa blocked me. If you want to block me, you're not transparent, it won't work.
yeah, true.
John Steenhuisen blocked me. Another guy up in Joburg blocked me. DA guy blocked me. I've got to say, Julius Malema has never blocked me. Dalian Porfo has never blocked me. As a matter of fact, Dalian Porfo follows me. You know what? We should start looking at people. And here's a nice thing. I almost forgot. The beauty of my system, my governance system is we can take the best ideas of every political party and use them without running another party down.
Okay.
The EFF has got a thing where they say that there's too much red tape for somebody that wants to sell tomatoes on the side of the road. And they're 100% right. We should implement that out here. Everybody's got policies that make sense to me and that I like, but you don't find the DA saying, hey, well, this thing about the EFF is good. They will never say that because not in their interest. Their game is to divide. And I want people to understand this about people, about politicians, sorry, not about people, about politicians. There is no kind-hearted politician anywhere in the world. To get to the top of any political party, you have to be ruthless. You don't get to the top.
Yeah, dog world. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
dog
world.
You're at the top, and you absolutely, Jason. So if you're at the top of a political party, if you're Helen Zille, if you're John Steenhuisen, or Thabo Mbeki, or Nelson Mandela, or whoever you are, you have crushed people. You've got a ruthless streak in you. So don't come and tell me you're there for my interest. You're there for your interest. It's time people start realizing, and yeah, they need to start realizing what the world is all about. You cannot turn around and say, listen, we are going to fight crime in this country. Yeah. Because crime is one of the biggest employers in this country. You can't eliminate crime.
It is.
So don't stand there.
Yeah, it is.
It is. It's a fact. Yeah. But even the DA says they're going to eliminate crime. So what are you going to do with all the people that are unemployed because you stop crime? Where are they going to go? Forget about artificial intelligence. Forget about the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah, not everybody likes crime. I mean, I'm a crime fighter. I'm in the security industry. So the thing is, what I would like to see happen more in this country is that true capitalism. You know, that true capitalism. The street vendor, the guy on the street corner cutting hair, selling fruit and veg, selling chickens, selling eggs. You know, true capitalism. We need to start somewhere. If you want to bring back wealth, I mean, the economy in this country is just for a bag of shit at the moment. And capitalism, but true, not crony capitalism, true. There's a difference between the two. And I've mentioned it many times on my podcast. Put more effort and more time into capitalism. It can uplift this economy big time.
Well, let me tell you something. I once did a study of capitalism. And I looked at capitalism and I said to myself, capitalism works beautifully in Japan. There's no homeless people in Japan. There's no squatter camps in Japan.
Yeah, true.
It works beautifully. It's capitalism. Go to Germany. It works well. Not as well as in Japan, but it works well. Then you go to England. Works well. Not as well as in Germany and Japan, but it works well. Then you go to America. Also works, but not as well as in England, Germany, and Japan. Then you come to South Africa. It works, but it works shit.
It works shit, yeah.
My theory on that is, capitalism works best when everybody in that community is the same.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, boy.
So if it doesn't, you have got to have laws in place to make it the same. Now, that's the one thing about capitalism. The second thing about capitalism, back in, I think it is about 1940, just after the Second World War, late 1940s, early 1950s, the owner of a big company earned between 30 and 35 times the salary of the average of the company.
Okay.
It's now up to 400 to 800 times. Mm-hmm. And that's your problem. People aren't putting the money back into the company to upload workers' salaries. And that's why we got inequality.
Yes.
It's the few people.
Oh, that's the crony capitalism that I'm talking about. Yeah.
Absolutely, but it's very simple to change it. All that you've got to do is you've got to pass a law that says, listen, no one person in this company may earn more than, call it 30 or 40 or even 50 times that of the average salary for this company. That must be illegal.
Well, it's gonna make a lot of people upset.
Well, then they can bugger off. Because there's going to be a lot of people that's prepared to go and work for that money and do just as good a job.
Yeah.
I'm not saying pay them peanuts, but really, you got to start somewhere. You
No,
know,
but I agree, yeah.
I don't like Antifa. They're breaking things down. But I went and I read about a couple of the things that they want to see. And a lot of things they want to see, I actually fully agree with. You know, so you need transparency. You need to move away from alienating people. You need to have a system where you can say, well, if you guys want to vote for the ANC for the rest of your lives, because whatever they did, they fought against apartheid, and you believe that it was the ANC that crushed apartheid and nobody else, or the ANC gave you a house, or the ANC is giving you grants, or whatever reason you are supporting the ANC, no matter how messed up they are.
Yeah.
My system can be put in place and work because it doesn't threaten the political parties.
Yeah.
All that you need to do is you need to identify in your ward what you want to see happen. You then go to the government as a representative of that community and say, listen, this is what we've done. This is what we want. Finance that. They will give you money. You put that money in a bank account, and everybody in that ward can go and look at that bank account, and it can see, well, this money went to that guy. And on the website, they can go and have a look and see who's supplying this, who's supplying that. It is a perfect system.
Yeah, it is.
It is manageable. It's transparent. It's honest. And it will get rid of a lot of things that we don't like. Well, let me say, it might not get rid of anything, but it will improve a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think we should concentrate on improving things than getting rid of things, because I just don't see anybody getting rid of crime. Maybe I'm pessimistic, but I think I'm realistic.
It's like you said, because crime is big business in this country, and you got to curb down. First, crime will stop, and then capitalism can take over.
Because you got to ask yourself, why are there guys? You know, I'll give you an example. COVID. You started off this conversation with COVID. A guy that I know very well has got a bottle store near where I live. They used to sell alcohol at night, between 11 o'clock at night and 2 o'clock in the morning, to different people that wanted alcohol.
Okay, well that's
the protection,
and that's the black market. That was the black market. Yeah.
Yes, but with the protection of the police.
Oh, okay.
The entire police force was in on it.
Wow.
Now you couldn't go and sell alcohol in a Mamsentoti because the Mamsentoti police didn't protect you there.
Wow.
but the police in this area protected us. I mean, I just spoke to a guy, funny enough, before I came here. He drove with 100,000 rands worth of cash 2 o'clock in the morning after doing 2 drops.
Jeepers.
So that's with the police. The police do it. You know, so if your crime has infiltrated your police force to that extent, how can you fight it?
Yeah,
you can't fight it. Don't be silly.
Yeah,
you can make money off crime.
Yeah.
You are one of the beneficiaries. You're running a company. You're doing good, honest work. You're giving people protection. You're doing well, and good for you.
Yeah.
But if a politician that wants to stand there and say we fight crime, what do you think? I'm 5? You know,
yeah.
you can bullshit all the other sheeple with that story, but I don't buy it.
Yeah.
It's like fighting drugs.
Yeah, true.
Who's ever won the war on fighting drugs? Nobody has. The Spanish gave up. They said, let's legalize this stuff. And look what's happened. The drug rate dropped there. You know, so I think South Africa is in a perfect situation that everybody is looking for an answer.
Mm.
A lot of people, I think there's something like 40 45% of the country didn't vote the last election. I think that's the figure. And those people, it's not, they did not vote in my taking because they didn't want to vote. They had nobody to vote for.
Yeah.
So if somebody can come up with an alternative and say, listen, well, if you don't want to vote, good, don't vote. But hey, listen, let's change, let's do things differently. Let's implement systems that's non-threatening to the establishment. Because you got to be honest. Let's say, for instance, somebody comes and goes to a shopping mall with you and say to them, listen, I can supply this entire shopping mall with face recognition and drones and this and that, and you don't need car guards anymore. Not going to be good for your business. You got to see that guy as a threat.
Yeah.
So you're not going to go to the shopping mall and say, hey, that's a good suggestion. Go for that guy. You're gonna do everything in your power to prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
So if you do something that's threatening people, all that you're going to get is pushback. You're not going to get buy-in, and you want buy-in.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't think anybody in this country is looking at buy-in. They're all looking at, let's build our little lager here, let's build that little lager there. And that goes for everybody, Jason. It's not just, I mean, here where I live, I've had children throwing my house with stones. I've been sworn on the side of the street, just walking, by drivers that tried to run me over, and things like that. So I'm not for one minute saying Africans can't be racist. They're equally as big a racist as everybody else. And I don't know how you're going to ever solve racism, because it is it's almost like an unhealthy bias. But I think people have got to learn to start off by being less judgmental. And if you become less judgmental and you become more understanding, the natural result from that will be less racism.
Hmm. Have you got?
You know, a guy said, what we in South Africa has got to start doing is we've got to start eating out of the same plate.
Yeah.
And to me, that was a very, very profound quotation. Eat out of the same plate. You know, I love music. I absolutely love music. And I listen to all genres. There's music I don't really like. And I can't understand why has nobody come and said, well, listen, let's take the 5 top African artists and the 5 top white artists and put a concert together. Why not? You know, I used to train for the comrades. Every running event you go to, just about, they play 1960s, 1970s, 1980s white music. They never, and they might throw in Mendoza, and now they think they're African. But bro, let me tell you something. There's some music that rocks so badly. I don't know if you listen to African music, but they guys like Nova and Questa and Black Diamond, and I can just go on. Mondley, The Voice. These guys make phenomenal music.
I like some of the oldies, like Brenda Fassie. I mean, I was listening to a song today, the Weekend Special from Brenda Fassie. It's a catchy tune. It's lekker music.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I had the privilege of meeting Brenda Fassie years ago. I was working for a company called Music for Pleasure. And one of the events that she was there, and pint size, I don't think she's taller than 5 foot, very small. She looks like a child. But cheeky as shit. Didn't fall in her mouth, but an amazing artist. And yes, that woman's voice. But
yeah,
I'm gonna send you some links to listen to a few songs. I don't know how much of a music lover you are. You most probably won't understand a word that they're saying, but I was listening to this one song.
Dude, here's another South African singer that a lot of people don't know, but Judy Bouncer. Also, Judy Bouncer, yeah, Can't Live With You Tonight. You don't know Judy Bouncer?
Yes,
oh, awesome. She was also a brilliant artist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So I can't understand why nobody has come up with a multiracial concert. We play rugby together. We play cricket together. Why can't we have a rock concert together?
Yeah.
Why is that not happening? You know?
There has been duos. I mean, when Johnny Clegg, remember when Johnny Clegg passed away? They made a song, Johnny Clegg and Friends.
Yeah, but it's not a concert. That's
I know it's not a
collaboration.
concert, but yeah.
But I'm
it was
talking
awesome.
about a full-on concert where you got Foko police cars singing, come on, come on, come on.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
have
I agree.
Questa going out and going the vibes. And then you have Franco Van Coke coming to sing his vibe there. Or Koos Kombuis. Well, Koos Kombuis, I don't know about Koos Kombuis. You must put him up first because I've got a couple of old branches. Koos Kombuis is not much more Koos, a lot of Kombuis, but yeah. But you know, it's just, I just really think we really, I can't emphasize this enough. I like what Mushi Maimane is doing, this movement of his, where you can vote, and it's also because of the law that's changed where you can now vote for people individually. I don't really know exactly how that's going to play out, because something else that we must not lose out of sight of is that we went from a system where we were governed by kings and queens to democracy, and I don't know if we've found our feet with this democracy exactly, because, and the reason why I'm saying this is the emancipation of women, the discovery of the pill has brought in a dynamic that was never there before in the history of mankind. In the history of mankind, a man was working and a woman was at home having babies. Whether women like it or not, that's the way it was.
Yeah.
The pill came along, and our women could turn around and say, I don't want babies. I'm not going to have babies because I'm popping a pill. And that changed a lot. And I don't think we have fully come to terms with that change. And now, on top of that, greed has come and changed capitalism, which was a brilliant thing until people have started to distort it since the late 1960s. People have really been raping capitalism.
Yeah.
So if we're going to come now with a system where we're going to say we're not going to have political parties, I'm not sure how that's going to play out. I don't think people understand what that's going to do to the sense of security of people, because whether we like it or not, whether we are right or not, human beings need to feel that they belong.
True.
And when they don't feel that they belong, they lost.
True.
And when you lost, who knows what you do when you lost? You know, I don't know, but I've seen people driving a car and getting lost, and they get all the murin.
Yeah.
They get the whole personality change. I've seen women starting to cry when they get lost in a car. So we don't know what we're going to do when we start feeling lost.
Look,
So
on what I was going to say now about groups in it. I mean, typical example. We've all got Facebook and we all got Twitter, so where there's groups, but we never really chat with each other. So recently, during this COVID-19 period, a couple of my old high school buddies, we created this WhatsApp group. So we're about 20 on it. And I tell you, it's been awesome. It's just been awesome gelling with people that I know from 28 years ago. And in a special kind of way, it helped, it kind of lifted me up, because let's be honest, this COVID-19 was just bringing me down. It was making me negative. I needed that something. I needed to belong to something. And that group, that WhatsApp group that we created, was just that. And since then, I'm still on that WhatsApp group, and it's been awesome. And my spirit is lifted up now.
That is what belonging.
I feel $100 again.
And you find that when you feel that you belong somewhere, you perform better. You got more energy. You're more creative.
Definitely.
Everything just snowballs from there.
Definitely. I mean, this group that I'm on, there's another group that I'm on where we also just talk about food and music, a lot about the old days, but it's awesome. So So we're like talking, what are you making for supper tonight? Okay, no, I'm making this for supper. And then we take photos and that.
Yes.
The person needs that. You need that. You need to belong to something to feel human again. Because we haven't.
And that is part of maybe of what is wrong in this country, because even though we raised by our parents very similar as groups, being Boer and English and Africans, we don't have that sense of belonging together.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're going to get that until we really start to go beyond what we have been willing to do. We've got to stop saying, white people have got to stop saying, well, we've done enough. We bend over backwards enough. It's now time for Africans to come to the party. Africans turn around and say, well, you've done jack shit. You've got to do more. So what I say to people is this: if you're not prepared to bend over more than what you've bent over, if that's what you believe that you've been doing, if you believe that you've been bending over backwards and it's been not enough, and you don't want to bend over backwards anymore, what's the alternative?
Yeah, true.
What is the alternative? People have got to be shown and said, listen, here is an alternative, and the alternative is a win-win situation.
Yeah.
People have got to go out there and say to people, listen, that piece of property that's standing over there, it's just costing you money. It's dividing the nation. If we do this with your property, you're not going to be done in by. You're still the owner of the property. These people can add value to your property. They can create employment. They can uplift people. It can do all those 5 things that I said it can be doing. And at the end of the day, when somebody comes to look at your property and there's a house with a roof and a pretty garden, they're more likely to buy it than when they walk into a place and the house has gone to ruins.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win. And you've got to start getting that win-win situation out there. The development of win-win projects, the development of being realistic. I just wish the ANC would stop saying that we're going to fight corruption. They can't fight corruption. It's what they are.
Yeah.
They are corrupt and they are racist. They better start accepting that, because that is what they are. And why do they tell people, there are differences between African people and white people. I'm going to be honest with you, in my opinion. I've got a friend, Bootley. The other day she said to me, Pieter, you know what? Your true colors are coming out. I said, Bootley, what the hell are you talking about? And what happened was, there was this one minister on TV, and she tried to sound all educated, and she stumbled and fumbled over her words. And I made the remark, I said, listen, if you can't speak English, speak your African language. And to this, Bootley turned around and said, no, now your true colors are coming out, you're racist. So I said, well, Bootley, let's have a look at this. If this woman can't say what she wants to say in English, she must say it in her mother tongue.
Yeah.
Instead of standing there and trying to impress some people. How can that be racist? So the thing is that racism is something that people pick up, and it's how can I put it? I'll tell you something. A Boer. Boer is a very competitive group of people. They're forever competing amongst each other. Okay? And if you don't stand up for yourself, you are going to have a terrible, terrible life growing up as a Boer and living in the Boer community. They're going to give you shit from sunrise to sunset and in between.
Yeah, it's true. When you go to a braai, when you sit at the braai, then he brags about what buck he bought. I just bought this Ford Ranger now, and it's got this.
Yes.
This guy goes, I bought the Hilux. And then you sit and you say, no, I bought this little Uno. And he's like, whoa.
Yes.
I know.
And not just that, now you take it to the workplace. There's always these guys that say, well, I can weld better than you can weld, or I can do this better than you can. And it's competition. It's non-stop competition. Or I can get the hotter chick, or I can drink more beers. It's always competition amongst the Boer.
Look, when I go to, like I said, when I go to a braai, when the oaks start talking about what they buy, then I just walk away. And they say, "Wat gaan jy nou?" I said, "No, I'm just gonna go get another dop." I just lose interest. I lose interest in the oak. Just wants to fucking brag the whole time, eh?
But now, to bring my point to racism, so imagine you are an African guy in a workplace, and you are working with a Boer, and this Boer is telling you all the time how good he is and how shit you are.
Yeah.
You're not going to think he's competitive. You're going to think he's a bloody racist.
Yeah, it's a superior versus the
So-
inferiority thing, yeah.
Well,
That's
it's
the
not,
thing. We gotta
to me,
do
it's not
away with
exactly
this
that.
fucking superior shit, man. This being superior is
But
fucking
Jason-
old school, man. Old school.
I hear you, but what the point I'm trying to make here is that if you had two white guys in this workshop, and the one white guy keep on telling the other white guy how shit he welds and how good he does it, and how late he comes to work, and how early he comes to work, and how slow this how it works, and how fast he works. That is how Buddha are. So if you take the white oak out and you put an African guy in there, that African guy isn't going to see this as competition. He's going to see this as arrogance and as racist.
Yeah.
You know, we as Buddha are raised that we are better than any other man. I was raised that I am better than any other man in any field. I'm smarter, cleverer, run faster. I can fight bigger guys than me. That's how I'm raised. And the reason why a Buddha is raised that way is because in the Buddha community, we believe that if you got self-belief, you're already miles ahead against somebody that doesn't have self-belief. So Buddha installs self-belief, and that self-belief projects itself as arrogance if you don't understand it. And to the African, that arrogance is racist. I'm not saying other things are not racist. I'm not saying they are racist things. I'm not saying the Buddha aren't racist, because the majority of them are. I don't care what they say. In my opinion, the majority of Buddha and the majority of white people are racist.
Yeah, they're gonna
Maybe
come
not
for you.
all on the same level. Huh?
They're gonna come for you, those Buddha.
Well, they can do whatever they like, but that is the, if I go to a pub and there's a group of biker guys, I'll say all those biker guys will indulge in racism at some point in time.
Yeah.
If I go to a family gathering, at some point in time, somebody will say something racist, and nobody will say something against that. So, and I'm not saying it makes a racist a bad person, but for the same token, I've experienced racism in an African community, so there's racism there as well. It is just, are you going to use your racist behavior to win a fight, or are you going to use it just to express an opinion? Because the other day, one of the guys on Twitter said, "Are whites racist in the when they're by themselves?" And I said to the guy, "Yes, we are." I said, and I didn't have to say yes, we are, but Africans are also racist. I don't give a shit whether they're racist or not. If somebody wants to address an issue with me about the way I experience my people, and if I say my people, I'm talking about Buddha people. And most Buddha will say, "But you're not one of us. You're as far one of us as you could get." But be it as it may, then I want to be honest. I want to say, yes, we do. And hey, how do I tell my grandfather to stop referring to African people in a derogatory way? He's almost 80 years old, you know. You can't do that. But what am I going to do? Not see my grandfather ever again?
Yeah.
Because he does that. So, you know, it's realities, and it comes back to my system. And I said in my system, one of the things I said in the beginning, I said, you've got to be transparent. There's got to be civic control. And then there's three other things, and one of them is you've got to be realistic. And if you want to make an issue out of something, you're doing it to divide people. You're not doing it to unite. I'm going to give you an example. I want to tell you this story, Jason. I think it was last year, the year before last. H&M had that monkey on the T-shirt, and I couldn't understand what the big deal was about the monkey on the T-shirt. And I spoke to a lot of my African friends about this monkey, and all of them said, "No, we can't get it. We don't know what the hell is the problem." Why can a little African child have a cool monkey on his t-shirt and say that's cool? And then I went to this one company, and there's a guy that I get along very well with. His name is Dumisani. And I said to Dumisani, what do you get? Do you get this? Because I don't. He said, well, because you're full of shit. I said, what do you mean you're full of shit? He said to me, no, you don't want to get it. And what he said to me was, he said, when a white person refers to an African as a monkey or a baboon, it's an historical thing. It's something that whites have been doing since time immemorial. And it's in that historical context that it's offensive.
Yeah.
That's why it was wrong. And I understood it. He explained it to me that way. He was the only African guy that didn't take the same opinion as I, and I understood it. So there's a lot of things that we've got to try and understand, and maybe people don't explain it to us right.
True, I call it the demoralization of things, and this is what politicians are doing. They demoralization people in their own old ways, the old conservative ways, and trying to bring out the new ways. But it's a process. It's a process on itself. Yeah, it's a huge process. Just like I said now about people bragging what Bucky I bought and that.
Yeah.
I understand that. I understand the culture of it. You need to push yourself because you want to make a success of yourself. But where politicians are on about is why do you have to go out there and brag about it, showing that you are better than others? And this is my argument. We're not here to show that we're better than others. We can be better, but we don't have to physically and oral say it, I'm better than you. Because that's what you're doing. When you're saying, I got this nice bucky and that, I'm better than you. What is it? No. What are you doing to the Oka? You're breaking down his self-esteem in it, and and it leads to all kinds of things like depression, suicidal, even for that matter.
And as far as I'm concerned, that should be the last thing on a politician, on a leader. A person that stands up on a platform and says, I want to be a leader of people. That should be his last objective. As a matter of fact, that he should actually feel disgraced. He should actually feel so much shame that he should actually resign when he indulged in that type of behavior. But sadly, the opposite is true. When he does that, people applaud him. Look at John Steenhuisen when he goes off like that in Parliament. People think he's a rock star, but he's an idiot. In my opinion, and I know my opinion counts for nothing, but he is. And I'm not saying, oh, he's an idiot and others are idiots, but I'm talking about John Steenhuisen now. In that scenario, as a leader of people, he's doing nothing to unify. And to me, that's so wrong. And how people can follow somebody like that and give him a vote is beyond me.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, as I said, Jason, the reason why I wanted to have this chat with you was to get my two concepts out there, because I feel, and as I said to you, a lot of people, and us, I'm going to be honest with you, I have very little interaction with white people. 99% of my day is mixing, is in and amongst African people. I speak to them. I speak to this area I stay, people that steal shit and stuff like that out of your yard. They call them paras. We will call, I don't know what will be done in suburban areas where it's people that jump over your fence, and if there's a hose pipe lying around or a rake or a spade, they'll take it and go and sell it for whatever they can to get a quick fix. I speak to people like that. I speak to doctors, chiefs, and dunas, tavern owners. So I speak to a lot of people, and I'm telling you,
the induna, the baas van die plaas.
Yeah, 5 years ago, people didn't speak the way they speak now. 5 years ago, they would still proudly say, I'll vote ANC. No problem. But they don't say that anymore.
Yeah.
And we need to get an organization. We need to get something off the ground where we can be honest, where we can be transparent, and where we can have control in the community. Because there where you live, surely you and the people there knows what you guys want. I mean, look at the Mams and Toti. Mams and Toti is a DA-run war area. DA is one that plays forever. Do you know that they have resurfaced the sidewalk? There's a road in Toti. It goes from one side of Toti to the other side. It's called Kingsway Road. Or it used to be called Kingsway Road. It's now called Zondo. It's named after that Adam Zondo, that guy that blew up the shopping mall here back in the day. And they've resurfaced that sidewalk. They do that every 3 or 4 years, the whole sidewalk. No, for no reason. There's areas that don't have sidewalk in Toti, but they redo that. And that's a DA area. Now, surely the people that live there will say, well, listen, the sidewalk might not be perfect, but it was done 4 years ago. Maybe we should rather put up more dustbins, or rather we should do this or that. The community knows. You don't need somebody that sits in a governmental parliament or provincial parliament to tell you what you need in your area. All that you want to do is go to them and say, listen, every ward is allocated X amount of money.
Yeah.
How much is that money? And then once they tell you what it is, then you come and say, well, okay, here's how we want it spent in this area.
Exactly. I was going to say it's up to the ward councillor to decide that. He needs to get information from his community. Yeah, the ward councillor. He needs to say, okay, this must get fixed, this must get fixed. But yeah, doesn't always happen that way, does it?
Ward councillors is just part of the political system. I'm not anti-political parties. Okay, well, I am anti-political parties, but I'm not provocating or promoting an anti-political party system. I'm just saying that the people on the ground knows best what they want, and they can do things better. It just needs to get out there. We need to run wards like we run your household.
Yeah.
Exactly. You guys know in your house what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Lawn needs to be mowed. You tell your son, hey, go mow the lawn. He comes, he says to you, okay, I'll mow the lawn. Gardeners charge 150 Rand to come and clean the garden. I'll do it for 75 Rand because I don't have overheads. So that type of thing, so that we can get more value for our money and uplift South Africa.
100%.
We really need to get to this win-win situation, and we really need to stop running people down.
100%.
You don't. If you want your son to succeed, you don't tell your son how shit he is. You don't go and say to him, "Listen, you're pathetic. You're good for nothing."
Yeah, but people have.
Going to be pathetic and good for nothing.
Yeah, but people have. I mean, look at the Japanese culture, for example. I mean, it's all about discipline. But I just sometimes think the Japanese discipline is just a little bit too much.
Yeah, a totally different society.
But then again, you look at the economy; it's booming. You look at the streets and that. You look at if there's a sinkhole, how quickly it gets fixed within 24 hours. Whereas a sinkhole in South Africa will take a week, maybe 2 to 3 weeks.
Well,
so,
they on Facebook they had this sinkhole in Taiwan and in Tokyo that they filled. I think it was 36 or 48 hours from the time that it happened to the time that it was. And here in the Mams and Toti, they had a sinkhole in for almost a year.
Yeah.
And it wasn't nearly as big as that one. So it's not a week or 2 weeks. It's more like a year.
So yeah, ethics, morality, discipline, it plays a role. But yeah.
You know, and the thing is, we just need to concentrate on what we can achieve and the good things. And, you know, my grandfather had a saying, look after the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves. Yeah. And I just feel if we concentrate on the good, the bad will become less.
Absolutely.
You know, it might be a pipe dream, or I might be living in a fantasy by thinking that.
Yeah.
But I honestly do believe that I think we are too much focused on what the other guys are doing wrong and how we can capitalize on that, as opposed to looking at going to them in the most unintrusive way and saying to them, listen, how about this way? How about doing this or doing that? You know, and I'm going to be honest, I can understand. You know, we tried something that has never been tried before. This reconciliation. It's never happened in the whole world before. And people don't understand. It's all good and well to want to do something. But when you don't look at the psychological impact, you like they say in Afrikaans, dan pluk jy 'n lat vir jou eie gat.
Yeah.
So you're in for a hiding, because imagine you are an African. Imagine you are an African. And imagine your grandfather tells you how shit it was under apartheid. Now imagine that. Just try and put yourself in that situation. I know it's impossible, but now to put you into that situation, imagine somebody came and walked up to you when you were semi-pissed, and they gave you a PK. How are you going to feel? Are you not going to want to give them a PK back the day you are sober and they slightly pissed?
Yeah, that's where your cognitive dissonance kicks in. And you start getting
now
psycho,
imagine the African nation having this. We would like to bliksem you back, but we can't, because we got a negotiated settlement. That frustration within them. Now on top of that, now they mess up. They take the SAP, the police force. They say, no, okay, we're doing away with all our specialized units. Yeah, 25 years later, they realize, oh shit, no, that's not a good idea. That was not a good idea. Let's bring back specialized units.
Yeah.
Now they're frustrated because they couldn't take revenge. Now they've got to admit that they were wrong. So you're adding negativity unintentionally. I agree. Unintentionally, you're adding negativity. And people sit back and they've got absolutely no sympathy for that. How the hell is that possible? Do people not think? Are there no? And here's what's missing in our country, in our society. What's missing in our society is people that can look at things objectively and say, listen, this is what you guys are not thinking about, or this is what you're not looking at. Because the bend over backwards part that the whites feel that they've done enough is one thing, because you and I must probably feel the same way, as a gut feel, let's say. But the African guy sits with other frustrations.
Yeah.
So we need people that will come and say, well, listen, here are possible ways of solving those problems. And we've got to understand that you can't say to somebody that's made a stuff up, see, I told you, you are going to make a stuff up. If you do this, this is going to be the result. I told you this 10 or 20 or 50 or 30 years ago.
Yeah.
How are they going to work with you?
It happened to me. When I joined Checkers, I became the youngest branch manager in Gauteng. I was 29 years old. And a lot of the seniors, the seniors looked at me and they said, you're going to make a stuff up. You're going to fuck it up. You're going to stuff it. And I took over a store that lost 1.7 million that financial year. I turned it to a profit of 299,000. Yeah, it's not much.
Amazing.
But when I left...
No, it's amazing. No, don't run it down. It's amazing. I'll tell you what, to take a business from a loss to a profit is amazing.
Yeah, and it was about discipline. I just added discipline. But my main secret ingredient was when there were store visits, when the MD came to visit, and we merchandised the shelf and that was back to school and that. He would come and he'd look and he would say, well done, Jason, well done. I say, no, I don't take the credit for it. I'm going to call my shelf packer. I can't forget it. I'm just going to say Sophie. I'll call Sophie and I'll say, here we go, Mr. She's the one that did it. And that's what that was the secret ingredient. The staff in the shop started to see that I didn't take the credit for myself. Gave the credit to them.
Yes.
And that's what turned the store into a profit, and it boomed.
Amazing. You see, that is what you did there is what we need more of. We need more of that type of thing, where people get the credit for what they do, and even if they don't do things, reward them for small things that they do, because it will become more and more. It becomes a habit. The more good you do,
No,
You know,
I did that a lot. When the stockroom was untied and the guys packed it, three guys I had in the stockroom. When the stockroom was finished packed, I'll go to my admin manager and I say, well, take some petty cash money, go buy these guys a chicken, a loaf of bread, and some Coke. And it was like,
yes, you buy them a child. Yes.
it was like, wow, because the previous branch managers never did that. Never did that.
Correct.
And those were the small things.
Yes, you acknowledge it.
I acknowledged it, yes. And those were the small things that made that store a success. Yeah.
I agree with you. And that is what is missing in this world. We are too, and it's not missing from people like you and your neighbor and people that we walk into the street. It's missing from our leaders.
Yeah.
Our leaders have lost that. And we vote for them.
Yeah, our
We
leaders,
vote for them like idiots.
yeah, our leaders take acknowledgement for themselves, yeah. I mean, they never did
Yes.
anything, but they will take all the credit for themselves. Yeah, it was my work.
Correct.
I did it. Yeah.
And not just even if they don't even say that, they go, I've achieved nothing, I've achieved jack shit, but hey, look at the big stuff ups you've made. You know?
Yeah.
Sorry. So that I agree with you. That is more and more of the type of things that we need to do. We need to get involved in building people up, not running people down and
Absolutely.
and have this finger pointing. You know, I always say to people, this country will come right when African people can be honest about their input in the failures and the wrongs, and white people can stop being addicted to finger pointing.
Yeah.
Because without, if I, there's people with so much money giving it to people that's more interested in dividing us,
Yeah.
than people that are prepared to come up with solutions. And I'm sure that there's some clever guys somewhere with a lot of influence that can look at this proposal that I've got and say, oh, well, I can think about this and I can come up with something better. I'm sure that's more than just possible.
Absolutely.
But I need people to start talking about this. I need those. You had two guys on your show that's I think they were both in the IRR. One guy's from Newcastle, I think. He's a IT guy. He worked for Sasol and Bongi or something.
I got his name. I forgot his name now. Can you believe it?
Yes, he's got a very weird name, but a hell of a nice. Huh?
Yeah, no, I've slipped. His name slipped my mind now.
Yeah,
but very
that
awesome.
guy,
Very
another
awesome.
guy on after him. Those two type of guys are the type of guys that should also be exposed to this concept of mine, because that guys in the communities with say, like those guys, they need to start saying to themselves, we mustn't go too much into the way whites do things, because I think
Impiaki, that's his name. Impiaki, yeah.
Yeah, Impiaki.
Impiaki, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, that's it.
Brilliant
I really
individual.
enjoyed his show because his father was a communist. It's not the first time that I've heard him speak. I've heard him speak on other platforms as well.
With Big Daddy Liberty.
Was,
he has a lot of chats with Big Daddy Liberty.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I must be honest, I haven't been watching a lot of Big Daddy Liberty. I primarily like to watch things that I disagree with. I like to listen to people that's got opposing views to what I have, to test my views against their views, as opposed to listening to people that have similar views. That's why I find people like Ronaldo and Ramon
Kevin,
and Germ. I find those guys fairly boring. I know sometimes they've got very interesting guests on, and they've had a couple of gems on that I've really thoroughly enjoyed. But their general rhetoric to me is condescending, it's finger pointing, it's not unifying, and it's absolutely 100% against what I'm trying to promote and believe in. I'm not saying they as people aren't amazing guys. I'm not attacking them in the personal. I'm just attacking the views that they expressed and that I've heard. So I'm more like to listen to people that oppose my views. Like I'll read a lot of stuff that the EFF puts out. I'll read a lot of stuff that the ANC puts out. I was an ANC member up until the previous election. I gave up my membership before that. I was in the Manzantote. I was a BEC member of Ward 97. So I try and read things of Mr. Manje and Herman Mashaba and Husi Kumalu and guys like that, just to get perspective. But then you get these two guys. The one guy was sitting on Facebook in his kitchen. His daughter's just been murdered, and I felt very sorry for him. And he wanted to shut South Africa down. And overnight, he got like 1 million followers, I think. And then just the other day, there was another guy wanted to do something. He was driving in a bakkie somewhere, and I'm thinking to myself, you guys want to save the country, but you don't even understand African people. And if you don't understand everybody in the country, how can you save a country that you don't understand? To me, it's just, it just goes to show how unrealistic we are. And that's part of the solution. We got to get real. If you don't get real and you don't become realistic, and look at things realistically, then you're never going to solve any problems.
Yeah, true. True. Yeah.
You've got to do, and you've got to give the other people the benefit of the doubt. And a lot of times that's very difficult because we got preconceived conceptions. When I used to get into a train, and I look around, I used to say, hey, yes, which one of these guys is going to go for me first? That's how I used to look at it. Until I realized, but this is the way this is how African people in trains look. They look like this. That doesn't mean they're going to rob you or anything like that. And over time, I've actually become friends, so much so that I launched this app after consulting with them and after they say it is a good idea. But you gotta start to understand each other and make an effort to do that.
In my environment, the guy that comes into the mall dressed up like a hobo and that, I don't really focus on him. He's not really a threat. The guy that's a threat is the guy that's dressed with the nice shoes and the nice slack pants and the nice shirt, and he's got his keys and his cell phone. He's the target. Unfortunately, he's the target. The guy that's dressed nice.
Learned.
Yeah, because he's learned.
Yeah,
he's the threat.
Yeah. And it's just, I just wish that we would, and on a small scale. And look, I understand there are things that's totally unpalatable to white people in the African community. I understand it. I mean, I'll give you an example. My daughter, she's got these 5 Pekingese dogs. They're a bit noisy. They bark a bit. Now, if she were to live, and she lives in a complex where there's 6 units, 6 townhouses. And 2 of the townhouses also got dogs, a dog in each unit. And they also bark. And now, if the people in those other 5 units were Africans, my daughter would still have her dogs. But because they are white and intolerant, they complained and she had to give her dogs up. Now, to me, my daughter's dogs to her is like children to most people because that's just the way it is. So the African people are a lot more tolerant. Here where I stay, there's a guy that has a party every Friday night. I promise you, like clockwork. Every Friday night he has this party, and it carries on until Saturday, 10 o'clock. And in summertime, they move the party into the yard at about when sun starts coming up, and they make a braai there, and it's noisy. And we just all allow him to do what he wants to do. Now, if Dadak was living in a white area, bro, 12 o'clock, that music would be off. Yeah, it's different. Sometimes you wake up and you go and you join him, and sometimes you wake up and you just start mowing the lawn or something, but you don't go and stop him. You
Yeah, I
know,
know.
it's taught me a lot about being a lot more tolerant. And I'm not saying that it's right, that their way is right, and the white way is wrong. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not comparing the one with the other one. I'm just saying that there are differences. You know, they will catch. Like I go down to the station one day to catch the train, 10 to 4 in the morning, and there's a guy. He's got a tow bar and an axle on the station.
Mm.
And he's a para. And I said to him, where did you steal this stuff? And then I asked him where he got it. I said, where did you steal this stuff? And he turns around and says to me, what's it? It's not your problem. It's not your stuff. What you worried about? So I looked at the people around me and I said to him, listen, this guy stole the stuff here. Are you all just going to be fine with that?
Yeah, they're going to.
Now, if it was white people and that was a white guy, he would have been bliksem, taken to the place, and that would have been that. That's how white people handle it. So there are differences. There are differences. And I know I'm generalizing, and I'm sure I don't want to say all African people are like that, but many are like that. And it's part of the reason why they don't prosecute people that steal in government. Because they come out of a culture where we look after each other.
It's like I said, morality. It's about morality, yeah.
Yes.
Your morals, yeah.
So unless and white people are against corruption because they know they suffer from corruption. The school is not good, the road is not good, the police is not good. You got a whole list of reasons why we are against corruption. The African population has not yet realized that corruption is going to affect them directly. And that is starting to change now. They are now starting to realize that, listen, I was on the train the one day. Train stops. There's one guy, oldish guy, there's 5 youngish guys, one oldish guy. So all these guys starting to incite the youngish guys to get upset, to burn shit, because the train's not moving. So I go to him and I say to him, listen, what are you doing? Shut up and sit down. And he said to me, what do you think you're doing? I said, well, I'm trying to get you to do something that's not stupid. You want to burn this train down, and then where's the next train going to come from? Oh, no, government will just buy one. I said, the government doesn't have money. He says, they want to just tell the white people to pay more taxes. So there's certain beliefs, or there's certain things that they haven't come to realize it and accept as realities. They still think if they break shit that belongs to government, taxpayers will pay it. And in their mind, taxpayers are white people.
Again, education, economics.
Yes.
Teach everybody economics.
But you can teach somebody economics till you're blue in the face. A woman I know very well, her name is Marianne Geldenhuis. She's a clinical psychologist. She once said to me, people don't change until they hit a dead end, and they have to change.
Yeah, then they have to change.
People don't change out of free will. People change because they have to change. That's why we voted for the end of apartheid. And as I say, I'm talking about people that could vote back in 1994, white people. We voted because we knew the country was buggered, country was bankrupt, we were isolated, and we were gut full of all of this. We wanted the differences. That we were forced to. We didn't do it willingly. People say we did it willingly. We did not do it willingly.
Yeah.
It was either this or that, and that option was the win-win option.
Yeah.
That's why we took it. And we back at another crossroads like that, where we can either go everybody loses or everybody wins. We might not win everything that we want to win, but that's how life works. You and I never get everything we want. We get some things and we lose some things. But at the end of the day, it's a win-win.
Yeah, true.
Now, the current situation is not sold to the public like that. The current situation is, let's dig in our heels and fuck them. That's what it's like at the moment. It's not like, hey, wait, let's cool down, let's calm down. We can't have a role about this. We have to carry on with the project that Nelson Mandela started with the reconciliation. I was standing in a queue the other day, and I had a guy and his chick speak to each other, and they were dissing Nelson Mandela. And their topic was, which African people are the biggest liars? And they said the Xhosas were the biggest liars. And top of the class was Nelson Mandela. And I asked them, you're speaking so loud that I could hear you. Does that mean your conversation is open for public debate? And they said, yes, feel free to join. And I said to them, so what's your opinion of Mandela? And they told me, no, they thought he was a sellout and blah, blah, blah. And I said to them, you know what the weirdest thing, or one of the weirdest things are? Whites hated Mandela and caught him, put him in jail. 4 reasons. I'm not going to go into that now.
Yeah.
But now blacks hate him. Africans hate him now. And we love him. The tables have turned completely. Because
Ironic.
you got hindsight now.
Yeah, it's ironic.
Yes, because you got hindsight. Now imagine back in 1963 or whatever when he was caught. There was somebody that could turn around and say, listen, let's look at this from a win-win perspective. Things would have been much better now than what they are. But ever since politicians have been formulated, politicians do 2 things. They divide and they steal. I once read the book about the introduction of democracy in the UK, and one of Guy Fawkes's guys had a discussion with an earl. I can't remember the earl's name now, but the earl turned around and he said to this guy, "This democracy that you are talking about, how are we going to profit out of this? How are we going to make money out of this?" And the guy turned around in his naive state, he said, no, we're going to do it for free. We're going to do it for love and charity. And the earl turned around and said, but you're bloody insane. Nobody governs anybody for free. You govern somebody to get rich out of it. And now when did that happen? Guy Fawkes, 18 flipping something. And nothing has changed up until today. It's just the level of corruption that's different in countries.
Yeah.
What the ANC hasn't realized is you got to keep the host alive. Because a politician is nothing more than a parasite.
Yeah.
And they haven't found the happy medium from saying, okay, we can steal this much. If you go beyond this point, we're starting to kill the host. And that's what they're busy doing. They're busy killing the host.
Yeah, true.
So they've got to still go through that learning curve. But I'm sure they'll get there before they get voted out. I don't.
Yeah.
Most people support political parties like they support soccer teams and rugby teams. You're never going to come and become a free stater, you Western Province supporter, even no matter what happens. Am I right?
Yeah.
You see?
I'm a Western Province supporter myself, yeah.
No, I'd say that. I said you as a Western Province supporter is never going to come and support the Free State because you support them through thick and thin.
Yeah, because then I'll be a draadsitter, yeah.
Correct. And that's how people unfortunately support political parties, through thick and thin. They don't see it as this is something different. This is not a sport or a game or we see you again next weekend. When these guys make a cock up, it affects our children, not us, our children and their children. Yeah. So, and all these things are starting to become realities in the majority of people. They're starting to get there.
Yeah, slowly but surely.
Many people.
Yeah, slowly but surely.
Huh?
Slowly but surely.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah, many people are saying things that you know, a lot of people 5 years ago wouldn't dare saying they're not going to vote ANC. They wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Now they say, oh, we're not going to vote ANC, but who do we vote for? Who do we vote for? We're not going to vote EFF. We definitely won't vote DA. So who do we vote for?
Yeah, true.
And so things are definitely changing. Yes, Pieter.
Let's call it a night. We've been chatting for 2 hours. It's my longest podcast yet. Well done, but it's been interesting.
Well, I hope it was interesting. I hope it wasn't boring.
No, it wasn't. No. I just hope my viewers out there take this to heart and take an interest in it because it's some interesting stuff, man.
Yes, I really hope so. I really hope that I get somebody that with a bit of clout that can see the possibilities of my
Yeah, exactly. I
proposals
mean,
and take
I'm
it
going to share
and
this.
develop it.
I'm going to share it on my wall and it's going to be on various platforms. There's like 11 platforms that's going to go on. But you too, once I give you
Cool.
the link to the podcast, you must go mull and share it on your platforms.
I will definitely
And
do
hopefully
that.
somebody would listen to it and take it to heart.
Yes, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to
Definitely.
express myself.
Definitely,
I phoned you up out of the blue. You didn't know who I was, and
No,
yes, I
no, no.
really,
For
really
the viewers,
appreciate it.
for the viewers out there, this is Louis Henderson, brother. I had a podcast with him not so long ago. We spoke about cryptocurrency and that, and it was also a proposal that he had. It was also an interesting podcast. So yeah,
So,
check that podcast. That podcast
Okay,
is
great.
also down the link here. Okay, don't go. I just want to do my closing quickly, and then I'm just going to end the recording, and then we can just say goodbye afterwards. All right, people, thank you once again. Pieter, thanks for joining me again on my podcast. My podcast is available on YouTube, Anchor FM, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and various other platforms out there. Check it out. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Cheers. Bye-bye.